I'm making this video from Kampala, Uganda. In May this year, 2024, as I was leaving the office, I got a sharp pain on my left side, and I quickly rushed to the hospital, and they confirmed that I had an ectopic pregnancy, and so they had to operate. They had to admit me and operate me immediately. Before this, last year, 2023, in January, I suffered another ectopic on the right side, and as a result I lost the right fallopian tube. So when I got confirmation this time around in May of this year that it was another ectopic, immediately I knew what that meant, and of course I knew I'd lose the second fallopian tube. Given the pain I was feeling, I had already figured that it had ruptured. So I was booked to do a surgery the following morning at 7 a.m. I went into surgery, into theater at 7 in the morning, and by 7 p.m. I was not yet out of surgery. My family and friends, of course, began to panic because the surgery was supposed to be a laparoscopy, which takes precisely 2 to at max 3 hours. However, the surgery had taken an entire day, and so they began to panic, and as they were asking the doctors for updates, the doctors were not giving them these updates. What was happening on the other end in theater was I was not waking up, and I was on oxygen. When I wake up, eventually, there's immense pain in my throat and my chest, and I'm failing to breathe. So I notice I'm on oxygen and I'm failing to breathe. And at that point, I begin to cough and my chest hurts. I can feel blood in my mouth and sort of wounds. I had cuts on the tongue and wounds. I could feel wounds in the throat. And at that point, I start coughing, and I'm coughing out blood. I feel the urge to vomit, and I'm vomiting buckets of blood. In that instant, I knew this is not how it was supposed to turn out. And my spirit begins to fight. So I could feel, of course, the angel of death had come. In that moment, as I'm vomiting the blood, I could, of course, tell that I was surrounded by, I couldn't explain it. So in that moment, I just say the word family, and some family members show up and start praying. They start praying. This is still in theater. So when I'm taken out of theater, I'm put in the ICU and on oxygen for another 2 days. The doctors were not explaining to us what exactly had happened, and my left side of the chest was beginning to swell. They kept indicating that as part of surgery processes, complications happen, and in this case a complication had happened, but they didn't explain to us what exactly had happened. 3 or 4 days later they discharged me, but I go back home and my left side of the chest is still swelling, and I'm pale, very pale. I've lost a lot of blood, and my breathing is not okay. It was as though the lungs were not getting enough oxygen. So I quickly, my family members begin to panic and quickly rush me to another hospital, where they begin now to check for a clot, which they suspected was in the left lung. And they begin to do what a good hospital does to rescue the situation. But the very day I'm admitted in the second hospital, as I'm in the emergency room, my body begins to get cold from the feet up. And my mother at that point, who was out of the country, arrives. And she arrives at the hospital immediately, as I've just been admitted. And in the emergency room, she begins to pray. My mother is an Nsppd and is always on this altar. She prays, the woman prays. And as she's praying, my feet that had started becoming cold, the legs begin to warm up. And I recall in the anthem how the women received their dead back to life. That's exactly what happened. I came back to life, and the clot they had seen in the left lung disappeared. I went for review 2 months later, and the lungs were clear. The blood they had seen in the left lung, the clot in the left lung had disappeared, and the swelling had stopped. What was supposed to be a simple surgery, the devil had come to use it to take my life. And I'm here to testify that God healed me, that God cannot do does not exist. What we saw him do in the days of the Israelites, he is doing now. He is bringing the dead back to life. I am here to testify that God God has brought me back to life. I have returned to say thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you, Pastor Jerry, for being a servant of God, for calling this generation to prayer, to facing the devil head on and putting him to shame. We did pray, it did show. God bless you.